Hello, Avinash Bhaiya. Welcome to the amFOSS podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm
We're
doing great.
yeah, same. We're trying to
Nice.
cope up with the pandemic situation. Um, Online classes are becoming kind of boring, but we're trying our
I
best.
wish I could say same here, but I'm not taking any online classes. So
So, how is
uh,
work at your end? Like, is it
it is good. It is all
nice?
remote.
Okay.
And I used to work, I used to go to the office before the pandemic. And once it hit, we went remote. And recently I switched my jobs also.
Mhm.
We can talk about that a little bit later also if you want to.
Mhm.
So it's fine. I uh, work from home. I have a 2-year-old son. He goes to his daycare at Montessori, and my wife, she works for Cisco, and she's also working from home. So we're all tied in this house together. It's
That's
great.
great.
So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about? I mean, introduce yourself so that I can see what you guys are doing, and then we can go from there. Also,
Yeah,
it might
sure.
help me.
So I'm Pavitra Nair. I'm a
Hmm.
second year artificial intelligence student, and I've been a member of the club for 2 years. Yeah, and so currently I'm taking classes, online classes, because of the pandemic, and
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Anushka Ramesh. I'm a second year BTech computer science and engineering student. Just like Pravitra said, I'm also trying to cope with the online classes. Really looking forward to college opening. I hope it opens anytime soon. So, yeah.
Nice. You guys are not attended, actually gone to colleges and college until now, I'm assuming, or have you gone to the
No,
college?
we haven't
We
seen the
haven't
campus
seen.
also yet. We haven't seen the lab. I mean, we've seen pictures, of course, but we
Yeah.
haven't seen it in person, unfortunately. So that's something to look forward to.
Okay. So you guys, you both are at your home, respective homes, wherever you guys are, and then
Yeah,
Yep.
you're studying from there and doing all this extracurricular activities from there.
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So one thing is interesting then for me to know, like, uh, how did you guys find out about this club, or how did you guys get into it? I mean, it's all online, right? So
Yeah.
like in the school, by word of mouth, like if you're in the campus, I can see, okay, you see other students going into it, and it's, but when you're remote, how are guys coming into the club? Like, it's really interesting to see, and I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, actually, the thing is, from the induction process itself, like we were introduced to the club, and like the members of the club, like there were actually presentations, I believe, like during the induction process itself,
Yeah.
that's like explained what the club was and like what you learn in the club. And even though it was online through word of mouth, I still heard about the club. And
Okay,
like
got
even
it.
online, like Quora and stuff, it was mentioned a lot. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
A little
interesting.
bit on the same lines. I also heard it through Quora. In fact, one particular teacher of mine at school, he kind of recommended this club called amFOSS at Amritapuri. So he was like, it's great. They teach you a lot of stuff. So I got really interested, and when I went through the site, and when I saw all the things that you'll do, I was like, this is great. So that's how I got to know about the club, and I kind of joined Amritapuri for that purpose. Yeah.
Okay, there you have a testament to the effect that amFOSS has on people, I guess. That's
yeah.
Right.
amazing. Because, yeah, okay, that's amazing.
Hey, I have a question for you. So,
Yes, go ahead.
it's been a pretty long time since you've left the club, and of course, the club has changed significantly. So, like, can you take us into what the club was like back then? Like, how was it different from how we know the club today?
That's a that's a great question. And this, so I to give you guys context, I joined Amrita University in 2000, in the 2006 batch. So 2006 to 2010 batch was mine. And I joined the IT batch, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I am basically from Bangalore, from Karnataka, and then they had the CET, Karnataka CET, and then you have couple of seats reserved for each campus, Amrita University
Yeah.
campuses in Coimbatore. And I don't know how it is now, but that's how it now. You have Amrita exams and all that, but it
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
different back then. You could use your state CET exams to get into other campuses.
KC.
So yeah, so
Mhm.
I went through that, and I got into Amritapuri campus, and then it almost felt like I was an outsider, because I was kind of the only non-Malayali kind of person who was in there. So it felt like a little bit outsider, even though everyone was really friendly. But as you have a group, it happens anywhere. Like when you have your own group, when you speak a common language, you tend to use that language more often. So I was trying to keep myself really occupied and busy, and I think it was like almost end of a semester or so, or beginning of my second semester is when I got introduced to Vipin sir, and then that's how I got introduced to the club. But anyway, coming back to your question about how was the club at that time, it was extremely different. We had very few students. Now I don't know
Mhm.
how many students are there, but how many students participate in the club.
There's
Uh,
around 60 actually.
okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
not bad. Uh, so imagine this situation: no laptops, no Wi-Fi, no cell phones, and then you only get to work on your lab machines, like whatever machine you have in your computer science lab. I know you guys have not visited the campus itself per
Mhm.
se, but anyway, you only get to work on your lab machines. You don't have laptops, so those were the things that where we had to go through when we were getting involved with the club. And we had to get special permissions to stay back from uh, our hostel warden. We had to get special permissions from the computer science department. We had to get special permissions from so many people. Vipin sir had to do it for us, so that, and then he would take in charge, and he would be like, I'm personally responsible for these people, these students, and he would let us into the lab after school, after college, and we would sit like almost until 10 o'clock, and then he would walk us back to the camp, to the hostel. And he was
Mhm.
extremely involved with all of us. Like he would push us and push us every single time. And I think those were the kind of things that we used to go with. I don't know how it is now. I don't know if cell phones are allowed in the campus. I don't know if I guess, of course, Wi-Fi's and laptops are more common now, but it was
Mhm.
really uncommon at I mean, not uncommon, did not exist when I was in the club before. So
That's
yeah, I mean, but it was
interesting to
fun. It
hear.
was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, now we have the luxury of like free access to like all our gadgets
exactly.
it being online.
Exactly.
That's one benefit of online if you're looking at
Yeah,
the silver lining.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean, of
think
course,
it's
secretly, everyone had cell phones. It used to be a huge, see, we
oh
had to.
wow.
Nice.
I don't know how public this is, but anyway, we used to hide cell phones, and now it's all smartphone, right? So we used to have those Nokia 30 3300 or whatever, the brick
Oh,
phones that we had,
okay.
and we used to hide
Mhm.
them, and hostel warden used to come and do a check of the room, because
Uh-huh.
it was not allowed to have, and we would break the rules. It was not right of us, but we needed some way to communicate, right? So it was fun. And there are times where they would, the wall socket in the hostel, they would disconnect that, so that we
Oh
don't get to
wow.
charge our phones. So we
Oh.
would secretly, yeah, so we would secretly unscrew it and then reconnect it back, and then charge our phones. And when we hear a word that, okay, the hostel warden is coming to do a check, we would again unscrew and then disconnect it, because they'd come to check whether. So those
Wow.
were
That
the.
sounds fun.
Insider
It was fun.
secrets from amFOSS.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
Take notes, everyone.
Yeah.
Take notes. Nobody told you this. Anyway, so
That's
yeah,
fun.
it was fun. It was really fun, to be frank.
Mhm.
But we were dealing. So as I said, back in the time when I was in the club during my engineering days, it was like we not have any of those privileges. And just imagine, now we have laptops, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And then when we used to work on the lab machines, of course we did not have administrative privileges, right? You had to work with
Mhm.
whatever user you were given, that's it. And then we had to get special permissions to give us access to that one virtual machine or that one
Oh God.
application called virtual box. You would only get
All right.
permission to run that app, and then from that we would install whatever Ubuntu, we would install Open Solaris and all of those things, and then go from there. So yeah, so basically those were the times. It was different.
Wow. Okay. That's a lovely insight into how the club was actually back
Yeah.
then. I think some of the points you mentioned, like about sort of Vipin sir asking for, asking for y'all to stay back at the club. I think that's still there. I heard some of the seniors at least mention that.
That's
Uh,
good. Yeah.
but yeah, like I think that those phones, I'm not sure, but it's a really nice point that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That's great. Right now, in our this online mode, we have like our only point of communication is online meetings. So for anything, we need to sort of schedule a meeting just to communicate. So that it's become, I guess, more organized. Communication has become more organized rather than spontaneous
Right.
online. But yeah, I think that's kind of the major change that we faced, right,
Yeah,
Pavitra?
primarily. We have to
Yeah,
force communication because like it doesn't happen
exactly.
naturally. Like we can't
Yeah.
just walk up to like another club member. So we've had to like schedule generally weekly meetings, but like if we have a competition or something going on, then we like on the spot we'll schedule a meeting. That's I think the primary change of online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. I mean, yeah. So right now with especially the pandemic and everything, and having this online platforms is a huge blessing, I guess.
Yeah,
And you guys
definitely.
have your own like, not Slack, but whatever alternate you have for that, channels to
Discord generally.
Discord channels. Yeah. So you have those, I guess, to keep yourself occupied.
So, Bhaiya, one more question. So, like, it sounds like you had a great time in the club. So, is there any particular memory or like an incident that stands out to you as your favorite memory that you would be willing to share with us?
Um, there are so many. So I mean, one thing that I can think about is the FOSSter conference, the first FOSS conference that we hosted in Amritapuri
Oh,
campus.
okay.
I feel like that was the one of the best times I've had um, in the club. Apart, I mean, along with everything else that we did, of course, but the conference was a really huge thing for us because that was the first time we were, hosting a conference. And back in the, when I was attending college, clubs would not be allowed to host any conferences or any extracurricular activities. Of course, FOSS is an extracurricular activity. It's not a part of your coursework. And uh, the the engineering department, the IT department or computer science department, mechanical engineering department, they hosted events, and they hosted activities, and the university itself as a whole hosted the Amrita Kalotsavam and all of those uh, programs. But the club itself, any club for example, is not allowed to host as such. So we were, I think, to the best of my recollection, I might be wrong, we were the first club to host a nationwide event without not without the support. That is wrong to say, but um, by on our own, basically. Like
Oh,
it was not a department hosted event. It was hosted by Amrita University, but the FOSS club took the full responsibility, and they were from planning the event to getting funding to hosting it, from end to end. It was all done by students with the support of all the faculty and teachers.
wow.
And I still
Okay.
remember, yeah, and I still remember the time when that people were saying, like, what you're trying to do is crazy, you're not going to achieve it, it's not going to happen. But we made it happen through immense amount of grace and immense amount of passion from all students. Everyone so this involved everyone, not just people who were in the amFOSS, or at that time it was just called the Sun Club, I think, or the FOSS Club. It was not called amFOSS. That is a newer term. But it was not just the members of that club. It was the support of everyone around it also. Uh, Hosting, accommodation, food. People who had nothing to do with the club, students of my batch and our seniors and juniors, they came in and helped, and then we got it done. It was I think one of the most memorable time that I had, I think, from the club.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. So now that you've mentioned the FOSSter conference, right? Did
FOSSter
I get that
conference,
right?
yeah. It
Okay,
was called FOSSter, FOSSter, FOSSter. And in
FOSSter.
2009 was the first time we hosted it. And I think there was one other time it was hosted, I think, after that. I don't remember though.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah.
So, like, now that you've mentioned it, could you elaborate more on like what exactly went into the planning and scheduling of this entire event? Like, how did you all make it happen? Did you all go through a particular
So,
process?
no, I mean, everyone in this was new to it, right? Like,
Hmm.
we had no
Okay.
idea about how to host a conference. There was no like online resources on, there's not like a guide that was there to say, okay, this is the way you host it. So what we did, I think, if I remember it right, is we had, each department, like accommodation was one department, agent or the overall planning was one department, and then registration was one department, and we had another
Okay.
department for accounting and finance, who would take care of all the budgeting needs and all that. And we had a promotional team, we had a graphic design team, and we had a team who would uh, design content and reach out to um, potential speakers. We had one team for that. We had one team who would take care just about meals, like food for the
Hmm.
conference, because people would fly and come from different parts of uh, the country. It was not just for Amritapuri students. It was a nationwide conference, and we went full blast on it. And until
Excellent.
I remember one particular event, until the so we had the sponsorship guide where we would send out sponsorships to potential companies to sponsor the event, because we had to cover the cost somehow. There
Hmm.
was speakers where they would we had to cover the flight charges for speakers. And some companies were good enough that they or great enough that they would sponsor their employees to go and fly out. But there are many speakers who could not afford that. We had lots of student speakers. There was one person I remember. He's called the Kerala farmer, and he was a lot into FOSS. I don't know if he is still, but uh, and he was a farmer. He is a farmer somewhere in Kerala, and then he came and gave a talk. So we had so many people, and until I think the last moment, we did not have enough funding to make the program happen. We did not think that it would happen, and you know, something happened behind the scenes, that uh, one fine day, the Sun Microsystems, the company that I was interning for, and the engineering, or the head of the Bangalore um, engineering team, I guess, or the VP or some, I don't remember what his title was at that time. Anyway, he reached out and said, hey, we want to sponsor at the platinum level, which was the top tier sponsorship. And then that was, I mean, we got other sponsorships which were smaller amounts, but we had a deficit of some amount. So that
Hmm.
made it happen. And it was a huge amount of grace that it happened, basically. And everyone just came together. Each department was independently run. They got the they got the say on how they are going to do it. And then each department had a student head, and they had a faculty head. So there would be a faculty that's responsible from the university side, and there's a student who's responsible from the student body side. I don't want to say the club side, because not every student was a club. There are a lot of people who are really good at managing stuff. And I knew my classmates really well by then. and then they had specific set of skills that we were able to use for for them to help us. And it was an overwhelming success to host that conference.
But I think it's really interesting that you brought that up because even to this day, amFOSS is entirely student run, which I think is very impressive. Like
Exactly.
even everything from like arranging fests to hackathons, everything is completely done by our students. And I think the thing that that does is it really gives us like real world skills, like non technical skills. Obviously, we learn the technical skills as being a member of the club, but like even in arranging this podcast, like communication skills, having to reach out to you, networking skills. So I think it really gives us a well-rounded experience.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, it's the club was the best thing to happen to me. That's all I can say.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you one more thing about FOSSter. If we maybe perhaps have FOSSter as an online conference, what do you think are some of the things we should keep in mind, maybe while planning this online?
Good question. Um, I guess you need to have see getting the infrastructure is not difficult. Engaging, see, when it is not an online conference, when it is in-person conference, you you have a certain room, or you have tracks and you have sessions,
Hmm.
and people go and attend that, and then they fully commit to that and they attend and then come out, right? No matter how great or mediocre or bad the content is, usually people don't just walk out. Very few people do that.
Hmm.
Engaging the attendees and participants, I think that should be one of the key factors. How can you keep them engaged through the conference? And right now there are so many YouTube videos, and so if I want to learn a new tech stack, I can go to YouTube and look at it.
Hmm.
um, what does it give me that I should attend this conference that I don't get outside?
Yeah.
So
Right.
that is something, I guess, you have to look into, like how we can engage, planning it the right way. I think that will be really crucial aspect, one of the crucial aspects, I think. And attending virtual, I guess, I mean, you have those technical hurdles which it might not be that hard, and then how to have an interactive session. If it is in person, you just raise your hand and you're like, hey, I have a question. uh,
Hmm.
how would you create like rooms and all that? So that's, I mean, there are softwares that do it these days, but the main thing is engaging, keeping the engagement of students or the attendees, and also to be able to help speakers present, basically.
Right. That's an important point actually, because uh, right now in the online mode, a lot of it's keeping people engaged, I think, is the most challenging task here. I
Right.
guess we don't have like a lot of resources or tools at hand, I think, to sort of keep them engaged. We have only the
Yeah.
screen. So I think, yeah.
And in YouTube you have the forward button, so if you don't like something, you can like press forward and
Right.
then skip a
Yeah,
particular thing.
absolutely.
Or
Exactly.
you can hear YouTube in like 2x speed, 1.5x speed, and all of these things. And
Yeah, definitely.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and then I usually listen at a little bit higher speed, and
Hmm.
my attention is low, but it's just running in the background, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that engagement, somehow you need to be able to create engagement the with the group.
Yeah. Another similar issue you're facing is like amFOSS, we're kind of trying to grow the amFOSS YouTube channel now. So like a
Right.
similar thing, like there's already so much, like so many videos out there on technical topics. So like what new thing can we offer that people are interested in? Because like there's
That's the
already
thing.
whatever
It
technical
doesn't have
topic, it's already
r-
there.
right. No, that's the thing. I see. You don't. It should not be like what new thing you have to offer. I think the right thing is to say, even if something exists, how can we present it in a better way?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
You know, like
absolutely.
how can I make it simpler? How can I dumb it down for anyone to understand? Or how can I make? I really love this concept, but this video is really technical and it's too, I'm not able to figure it out. How do I make it easy, or how do I make it better? And it can be the same content, but
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
the presentation is really different. You have some graphic and all that, and it makes it better. That's also, along with new content, that is also a possibility. So you don't have to, I don't think we have to look at it like, oh, I have to look for new content and I'm not able to
Yeah.
find new content. It can be like, okay, this is an existing topic. As simple as how does HTTP work? How do you, what happens when you type google.com on your laptop?
Mhm.
uh, there's an interesting video that shows everything, but there are so many videos that will give you like technical deep down into, hey, routers and all of these things, but the way you present it is really important also. uh,
Yeah.
Simple example is Facebook. They went down for how many, like 4 6 hours it was
Yeah.
down. And
Mm.
well, I saw so many articles about why it went down. They went into deep networking and this and that, but there's one, I think, a tweet or a thread which really said, in simple layman terms, it told exactly what happened with Facebook, which was really
Mhm.
interesting. So yeah, a lot of people are building content, but I think it's the quality also is important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And we actually have an
Mm.
edge there, considering that
yeah,
we're students. So like we
exactly.
know what it's
Mm.
like to like get like bombarded with like all this technical jargon and like
Yeah,
how it feels like to be so
yeah,
confused and like
yeah,
overwhelmed. So
yeah,
I think like now that we've figured it out, at least to a little extent, we can actually help in that
yeah,
regard.
exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Give a fresh perspective. Like because most of
Exactly.
the
Mm.
people on YouTube are like tech professionals who've been in the
Mhm.
field for a really long time. So yeah, I agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree.
So, Avinash Bhaiya, so the time when you joined amFOSS, I think it was at the beginning of amFOSS itself, right? Like,
Yeah.
you were there when it just started.
Yeah.
So, how did you take this idea that Vipin sir had for amFOSS and sort of build it in a way that it actually attracted a lot of students in Amritapuri?
So yeah, I mean, FOSS did not really exist in when I joined engineering, right? So
Mhm.
the way it worked is, uh, you had this. So to the best of my recollection, when I joined in 2006, uh, the initially we have this courses of C programming and all of this. Every branch takes the same course basically, to lay down foundations. And uh, even though we were the IT batch, it was not necessary that the students who came into the batch were good in programming, or they even though we had courses, it was not necessary that they would grasp it in class. So Vipin sir, I think he took it upon himself to give extra coaching, because he had industry experience and then he knew how things worked, and he has a knack to explain it in a way that nobody else can explain it. So he would help the students, uh, to you know understand computer science in a way that they could not grasp during course regular class hours. So I think end of my first semester and beginning of second semester, my roommate and my very good friend, he actually said, hey, I have been going to Vipin sir, and I come from a background where I had already learned computer science in my 11th and 12th. So I knew C programming, I knew basics of computer science, and I knew few things. So I had a little bit of edge, and I was looking to do something more than just the coursework. uh, so that's when my friend said, hey, I've been going to Vipin sir and he's really good, maybe you should talk to him, he can give you some pointers. And that's how I met Vipin sir. And then the moment I met him, I knew like he would be the guy, he would be the person who's going to transform me. So I he guided me from the beginning. He's like, okay, so these things, maybe you should try developing a website. Have you know do you know PHP? Maybe give it and he will not. What's unique about him is he will not sit down and baby feed you or spoon feed you, or he'll not come and teach you. he'll give you pointers and say like, hey, maybe you should try this, hey, maybe you should try that, you know. And then that's how he introduced me to PHP. And then I got full into it. I was like, whoa, this is so good. It was back then. uh, Python did not exist. All of these web frameworks were, all sites were basically PHP and HTML. So and coming from my background, I was like, I really loved computers, even from my childhood days. I still remember installing Windows 95, Windows 98 from floppy drives, and we would, you had like 6 floppy disks, that you would, or how many were 10, 11, I don't remember. Anyway, the whole operating system came in floppy disk, and you would insert it one by one, and then you would
Mhm.
start the installation, and then
Wow.
it goes through one floppy, it copies all of them into the hard drive, and then you take it out and you put the next floppy, and then you do the next one. So that was the
Wow.
installation process.
Mhm.
And it just fascinated me. And in my when I was in my eighth and ninth standard and all of those things, when I was in Bangalore, uh, I would tell my mom, hey, I'm studying and all that, but I would, in the background, I would say I'm studying some online content. So what I would do is, I would, on the background, I would right click and then do view source, and then try to see how they built the HTML website, and then
Yeah.
just copy paste and try to build my own. And those were the kind of things that intrigued me. I loved doing that. And then getting to know about this PHP is something that is dynamic and not static like HTML. It was really an eye opener for me. And then I built my own like little custom CMS. It was really hacky. It was the worst CMS ever built, but it was a learning experience. So that happened, and then Vipin sir in the background, he found out about the Great Mind Challenge, which our seniors, they participated in, and then they got accolades and prizes for it and all that. And then he kept looking for contests, and he always wanted to give students to do something. Like, he always wanted students to improve apart from the curriculum. And he found the Sun Code for Freedom contest, and we were actually late in participating. uh, and we were quite after the deadline uh, had ended for registering to the contest. But Vipin sir contacted those people and said, hey, I will get you into interested students, will you let us in? And then we got in, and then he said, hey, there's a contest for you, are you interested? You'll learn a lot about operating systems and all that. I said, yes, I will. And then we had to compile uh, the Solaris operating system. So Solaris operating system uh, in the lab machines, and that's when I was talking about earlier, where we stayed up late night and we had to do it on the lab machines on a virtual box.
Wow.
And virtual box was so new at that time for us. We had no, and it was like fascinating stuff. And now it's like everything is virtual, everything's VMware, everything is you can do a lot of, you can deploy Kubernetes and Docker and these fancy stuff, and nothing existed at that time. So we would build from source, and it would be fascinating to see that one line of code change. I was able to rebuild the operating system and test it out, rebuild the kernel and test it out, and then submit a bug fix and to a company, which was, the process was amazing. And then we once I was comfortable with it, we documented it, and then we got more students involved, interested. And that was the beginning of my journey towards free and open source. Until then, I had no idea about what is free and open source software. So, and probably 2000 mid 2007 2008, I got picked up as the Sun campus ambassador. And one of my job role was to, the whole concept of Sun campus ambassador was, Sun Microsystems is now Oracle, for those of you who are not aware. And um, it was a pioneer, and it is the company that invented Java, basically.
Yeah.
And they have server grade operating system called Solaris. And they were trying to do community outreach, and they have other softwares like NetBeans, and so many other things that they had at that time. They still do now. And they wanted to get their server operating system into hands. There was Ubuntu, there was Fedora, Red Hat, and all of those things. And even
Mhm.
Sun wanted to do something for the open source community, so they built something called as Open Solaris. And the whole concept of Sun campus ambassador was that from each campus, they would have student representatives who will evangelize on Sun technologies, on open source technologies, and all of those. So that's how I got involved. And then they would have presentations, and they would give they'd give not training, but they would say, like, pointers. Oh, hey, you can present on this. So I would take that, and then I would just or Vipin sir would help me, and then we would present it, and we would spread it by word of mouth, saying, hey, I'm going to present on some upcoming technology. Who is interested can come to this. I don't remember what it was called back then, but we had meeting rooms or something like that.
Hmm.
So each class would have a projector, and uh, we would present over there and all that. So that was the start of early days of FOSS Club. What is called now called a amFOSS was started off as Sun Club initially.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it started off as Sun Club, and because Sun was sponsoring all of these things, and then we were like, hey, we need to have a FOSS chapter. And then once we got this FOSSter conference through Sun Club, through the club, then I think we started slowly thinking about, oh, we need to make this a big thing in the campus. So, like, let's create a club for FOSS. So, and then Sun died. I mean, Sun shut down its program, or I was there, I was doing the campus ambassador thing for until 2010, I guess, like Jan 2010, which after that they I think they did not have any more, like they did not pursue it after that. And that's when we moved to calling it FOSS Club. I think it was just called FOSS Club before. It was not called amFOSS and all that. And
Hmm.
I think more like in either end of 2010 or beginning of 2011 is when that the name of amFOSS started coming out, which is what it is now. So yeah, it started off as Sun Club, and then we transformed it into including, like, making it really open source and open source contributions. And it back in the day, it would just be, we would work on a lot of various things. It would also be the BIOS club. We would I was also participating in that. And things were all like cross, they were all interconnected. And now I think FOSS Club is just FOSS Club, and then you have BIOS as separate thing.
Yeah, they're
But
Yeah.
back
separate.
then it was like, back then it was separate clubs, but then they had something in common also. Like we would just, it was the same members in both clubs. It was possible.
Oh.
So
Oh,
yeah, it was quite different the way it was before.
that's it's so interesting to know how amFOSS started. Uh, that's really nice. So, I mean,
I do. I mean, I. This is to the best of my recollection, and I mean, of course, there are a lot of other details, uh, and as you talk to more people, they will give you different perspective. This is my
mhm,
perspective, and you will have more perspective about their viewpoint about how the club was or what it was and all that. But this is how I remember the whole uh, the beginning of amFOSS.
Bhaiya,
nice.
so what attracted you to open source contribution in the first place? Like, I'm sure back then it wouldn't have been as like mainstream as it is now. So, why
Yeah,
specifically open source contribution?
frankly speaking, it was because of Vipin sir. Like, there was not like a motivating factor or anything like that. It was, I wanted to learn, but I don't know where I wanted to put my effort into. And frankly, Vipin sir is the one who was like, hey, maybe you should try this. And there's not like a one particular thing that inspired me. uh, I mean, I guess the right answer is yes, Vipin sir inspired me. He was that is the fact. So that's what I think I should stick to. Yeah, because I do not know like right now you have, I don't know so what inspired each of you to join this. Like for I know uh, yeah, I guess that would be a good question too, so I can like gauge if I'm missing out something.
Well, I'm personally not into open source contribution. Actually, I'm into the more competitive programming side.
Okay.
So, Um,
So yeah, see, I was not a lot into competitive programming. I really
uh-huh.
did not enjoy it. I do not enjoy it even to date. If you ask me to give an interview, this is one more side of me. If you ask me to give an interview, I dread it. I do not like the coding interviews just because it.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm not that I'm not into competitive programming.
Yeah.
So s- yeah, every person has his own. What about you?
Yeah, so I actually got to know about the Google Summer of Code program before joining amFOSS. So I had like this intention that okay, I need to join open source to
Okay.
sort of get into that. So
See, yeah,
I
so
just
we do
looked
not
at this.
have any of those.
Yeah, yeah, back in your time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
I was just Google Summer of Code existed back in your time.
No, it maybe it did exist and we did not know about it. Or so I know that I never participated in Google Summer of Code because I was busy
Hmm.
with Sun Microsystems and
Hmm.
those things. So I never. But I do know that probably in 2008 or so, or 9 also maybe. I know my batchmate, few of them did participate in Google Summer of Code, and they were they got selected and all that. And but at that time it was not like, oh, FOSS club is doing it. It was just the it was just a community. It was just the Sun Club, I guess, at that time, which was, or there was no attachment to it. Also, I think it
Hmm.
was just students were interested to do it, and we would. There was really a handful of students at that time, maybe 10 or 12, maybe
Oh,
maybe
okay.
15 also. I don't know, but anyway, it was really really a small handful of people who are really interested and who would do it. So that's why
Mm.
we never had any name as such. And Sun Club was its own thing, which used to do the open source evangelization and all of those things. So my only open source contribution was through the Code for Freedom contest, I would say. And after that, I never pursued it. Uh, I don't really know why, because I think because I got busy with BIOS and hacking contest and InCTF,
Hmm.
um, and also just the FOSSter conference, and then FOSS in general. I got really tied up in that, and because I was technically working for Sun Microsystems, right?
Mhm.
So that was it was kind of an internship that I was doing. So I never got to you know got into actually contributing to open source projects.
Okay. Yes, I mean, like for me, like I didn't really know what exactly open source was until I came into the club. So I just got to know about this open source as this particular concept. Okay, something related to Google Summer of Code has open source. Did not have a very good understanding. But when I came into the club, I really had this idea of okay, this is about contribution. It's about communities. It's about building code for like a greater purpose. So something like I think amFOSS gave me that perspective on what open source was. But yeah, I mean, I think that was like one nice part of it.
No, yeah, it's similar for me too, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Until then, until I joined, like until I met Vipin sir, I had no idea about any of these things. So yeah.
Mm. You mentioned the Sun Code of Freedom, like how you all participated in it at the last moment. So, do you mind elaborating, like what exactly happened at that time, and how did you all uh, what did you all do in that particular contest?
So the Sun Code for Freedom contest was, a contest that Sun Microsystems held. Of course, that's why the Sun Code for Freedom. And
Hmm.
I remember vaguely that it started on Valentine's Day of one year, and then it ended on the Independence Day of the next year, or something like that. It was some,
Okay.
Oh,
okay. So that
pretty
was the
long.
that was a contest. Yeah, it was something. Anyway, so the contest itself was basically to have students to contribute to not open source but Sun Microsystem open source projects. So you could contribute to Java, you could contribute to Solaris, you could contribute to um, NetBeans, and any of these Sun technologies you could contribute to. And then you had prizes for the most number of contributions, for you know the best contribution, or university wide, and then student wide, and all of those things.
Mhm.
And we took it upon ourselves to make sure that we were the best. And then through Vipin's constant push, we got a lot of participation. I believe we did 107, 106, 7 or something like that, bug fixes or something. And we were
Nice.
like, no other university came closer to what we had, how many contributions we did. And we had lots of students helping, like probably 10, I would say. My batch, I was the only one from my batch. Huh. Yeah. Let me rethink. Yes, I think I'm 100% sure I was the only one from my batch for this Code for Freedom contest. And then everyone else was my they were my seniors, one level senior, and some from the MCA batch, but again, one year senior to me. Uh,
Mhm.
so I believe I must have been the only one from my batch. Anyway, so and then we, after all the contributions, we won the first prize, for, or I won, me and one more guy, Rishikesh, we won the uh, first prize for the maximum number of contributions. And also university itself as a whole won the first prize for the total number of contributions from one university. So, and then they asked us to, they said that they would give Vipin sir and uh, me and one more, and the other winner, they would give us flight tickets to attend the uh, Sun Sun Tech Days conference, which is where they were going to give the awards out, right? And then Vipin sir was like, "Hey, all these students contributed. So how about, okay, we don't need flight tickets. We'll take care of the accommodation. All we'll need is the train tickets for all the students. That's it. And then the transportation, or the entry fees to the conference." And Sun accepted to it. And then Vipin sir took all the students, every single person who contributed even a single line of code, whoever has contributed to the conference or to the contest, he made sure everyone went to the Suntech Days conference and got to got to get the prize, or got to visit, basically. Yeah, it was amazing. So all of us went in train, and then we stayed in Amrita Vidyalayam in Hyderabad. And there was a bus that was there, and then we went to the conference. We also went around and spent time in Hyderabad also, and then looked around and all that. So it was amazing. It was a great time.
This conference was in India?
Yeah, it was in Hyderabad.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it was in Hyderabad, because so this Code for Freedom contest, I think, was held by the Indian division. I might be wrong about this, but I think it was just for India.
Mhm.
I don't remember though. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So, and I mean, one more fun fact about me. When this contest started in 2007, or whenever I got introduced to it, I used to do it
Mhm.
on, as I said, lab machines and all that. So one day, when I went back home, I told my dad, "Hey, I want, can I get a laptop and all that?" So after a lot of debate, my parents got me a laptop. And uh, the so we got it home, and the first thing I did after opening is, it comes with Windows by default. I wiped
Yeah.
Windows and I installed Solaris and Ubuntu as dual boot, and that literally freaked my parents out. They're like, "What are you doing? I just bought you a brand new laptop and you spoiled it," or something like that. But anyway, I mean, they were supportive and all that. I mean, they knew what I was doing and all that. But it was a funny tidbit. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, laptops are expensive, right? So it was a fun little thing.
Yeah, I think Pavitra, I think we remember. I remember we had to dual boot our
Yeah, as
computer.
part of the
That was the first
induction.
task for amFOSS for us to get in.
Yeah.
So we
Really?
had to, yeah, we had to do that dual boot because all the other tasks were dependent on that Ubuntu.
Mhm.
Most of them were Linux
Yeah, some
based.
tasks we
Yeah.
had to like know the Linux terminal commands and stuff. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I loved it.
yeah.
I don't use it anymore. Sorry to break everyone's heart. I use a Mac right now.
In
It's
your
completely
time,
overloaded.
were there any tasks as such that
No, no, there's not. So
anyone could join the?
yeah, I mean, so the thing
Okay.
is that there was not many people who were really interested, and it was not
I see.
necessary to have these tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it is different. Like now you have so many people who want to get in
Yeah.
because of because of how big and how great the club is. People
Mm-hmm.
know, like, students who join the club are, way ahead of their time, and they're way ahead of any other student who graduates from, the college. And that's an established fact. But
Right.
it was not back then. And people did not know what it meant to join FOSS club. First of all, there was not like a FOSS club, but anyway, people did not know what it. And I think only in 2009 is when we started, building uh, things like, we actually started making it a formal club. And uh, I think it was right after Sun Club died. We made it formally FOSS Club, and then students started showing more interest, and that's when I think Vipinsa started, looking into how we can, have this screening process or whatever, because that there was so much interest. So
Yeah.
nothing like that existed. It was like purely based on interest, and people who were really interested was really few, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that made sure that people who joined were really enthusiastic about what they wanted to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, and there were times where there were people would just come try it out for a couple of days, and they'd be like, no, it's not for me, and then they would go back or whatever. So that happened too, but there's very few people, so we not need to screen.
Same.
I
Mm.
Yeah,
think
yeah,
in
I
a way
heard
it's
about it. Now it
because
is different. Now it is
yeah,
different.
Oh, yeah. I think what
it's
is
very
the number right now, Pavitra?
close to
The
900. uh, that was last that I checked. I'm not sure, but
I
a
think
lot.
yeah, there are
A lot of
so
people fill
many
in the
registrations.
application. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
So I think in a way we owe it to like you and the other alumni to like for making
absolutely.
the club as great as it is
As it
today
is.
that
Yeah.
we need to have tasks to cut down on the number of applicants.
Yeah, that's good. That's really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Were there any skills like both technical and non-technical that you picked up from the club that like helped you in your career or in general?
Oh my God. So many, very too many to name. My Even though I don't consider myself a great presenter. I have not presented in a very long time. I'm really not a public person. But this for the time that I was in my college, I was very public about stuff. Like I would give talks, I would give presentations. I would never care about, I mean, it was really, it was daunting at first, but as I went into it, I would not care for what people thought about my presentation, how boring it was. I not care for those things, and I started doing it more often. I learned that, but after I came for my masters here in the US, I really did not, you know I not passionately pursue it here as much as I used to in Amritapuri. And the other thing is, of course, all of the soft skills, communication skills, was through the club itself. There is no other way I could have gotten that. uh, and then back in the day, we'd not Git was not popular. When I was in club, it used to be something called SVN, subversioning network or something like that. And there is none of this, Git checkout, Git pull, Git merge. None of this existed. And all of the code used to be stored in subversions, and it used to
Hmm.
be a process to actually get your code committed into it. And now it is really easy. So I learned all of those things. I learned how to, how I can confidently wipe my laptop and be sure that it doesn't mess up. Was, how I can do it confidently was through the club itself. My confidence to do stuff, or to, uh, you know to take that risk, was through the club. So yeah, it's a lot I learned.
Yeah, I think all of us force members can relate to what you said about like
Yeah,
going
true,
outside of our
definitely.
comfort zones.
Yep.
I'm not sure if this was there back in your time, but now we have this thing called FOSS Talks, where it's like weekly, one of our members, or actually a couple of our members, have to present on a particular topic. So I think that's really helped in our communication skills, like having to present in front of an audience.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
That is a skill that every person has to develop, or at least try. And we did not have something like this, though Vipin sir would push us to present. And for me, from my perspective, since I was a campus ambassador, I had to present. So,
Mhm.
but I think Vipin sir would try to get other students also to present, and all of those on various whatever they were working on at that time. He would try to get them to present and all that. But it was not. There's nothing like, or what is it called? Like what you said, weekly FOSS meet or whatever. We did not have anything like that. It was bunch of students who loved doing something, would sit in a lab and then work. That's it. That was the whole concept, I think, at that time. And we I remember also we had, Vipin sir was, also started helped students start this club called Mindscape. I don't think it's still around, but it was a big thing. It was, I believe it was short lived, but we would screen documentaries for students to come and watch. Like we would
Oh,
get a lab, or
Nice.
we would get a room with projector, and I'm not able to recollect the name of the room, but anyway, we would screen documentaries for anyone to watch, and we watched like so many good documentaries. And that was one more thing that Vipin sir helped start. And we had people who were from the mechanical engineering batch also join, not just it was not nothing to do with FOSS, right? So he would help us do those things, and then he would also, do like tree planting, and various other random things which, we go out of our comfort zone to do. So yeah, getting out of comfort zone was one of the key things that I learned.
yeah.
Yeah, I think to add on to the FOSS talks, Vipin sir also encouraged us to create presentations on a particular topic. So we just did a topic called on failed startups. So each
Yeah.
of us would just pick a failed startup and actually analyze it, and put the effort to create a presentation and explain to the audience, okay, why did this really fail? So, and once we
Wow.
do that, and then like we throw the question to the audience at times, and after the presentation gets over, we ask, do you have any questions or anything of that sort? And then we choose people for the next presentation. So this kind of goes on for, I think, every Friday we have this first talk. So that kind
Wow,
of
that's amazing.
encourages us. Yeah, that kind of encourages us to speak in front of the audience, really articulate our thoughts. I think
Hmm.
that's one thing I
Yeah,
really learned from
yeah.
the presentation.
It's
Yeah.
amazing you guys are doing this remotely. I mean, I would be half motivated at your age to do it, I think. Like I would be like, hey, computer games or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge we all face. Like, it's difficult not to get distracted when it's like right in front of you and so accessible. So, I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's where the discipline aspect comes in, where we have to
Yeah,
like discipline ourselves and like regulate time. Okay, this much time for playing, this much time for work.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
correct.
the amount of distractions, I think, is kind of increased in the
Yeah,
online mode.
definitely.
Yeah, like kind of sitting in one place and focusing on studies or anything
Yeah.
of that sort's kind of
Yeah.
a little more difficult. How are things how have things changed in your uh, job, Avinash Bhaiya, because of the online mode?
Things have not changed much. I mean, I love remote working. So,
Okay.
I know a lot of people who prefer to work in person. I enjoy remote working. I don't like to drive to anywhere to work.
Mhm.
It's just my thought process that, that is a waste of time. I guess. So I like remote working, but of course there are challenges of, you know, the closeness that you might have with other employees and all of those things, and being on top of things. But if you are motivated enough, and if you are motivated enough about the company, about the goal of the company, it doesn't matter whether you're in person or remote. You will make sure that you will put your 100%, I think. Like, uh,
Right.
the being remote versus being at the company has, I guess, nothing to do. it, there are a lot of companies that are successful and they are all remote. So
Mhm.
for me personally, uh, I mean, I guess this is a new job that I moved to, and it has been fine so far. Yeah.
I think
Right.
that both of us, like me and you, Bhaiya, are similar in the way that even I'm actually enjoying online mode more than I expected. Like, if I'm studying something and I feel hungry, I can just go grab a snack. And like, I can do things at my own pace. I don't have to wake up. I mean, of course, we have classes, but you can lie in bed and attend from the comfort of your bed. Yeah.
But
So,
the one thing, but that I think is challenging about is that I have my own like work area which is just for work, and then I have set myself into a schedule where I wake up, do my morning chores, and then I usually don't eat breakfast. I just take some coffee, and then I work, and then come for lunch, or lunch, and then, or not come for lunch, I take a break for lunch, and then sit back again, and then once I'm done at 4:30, I go pick up my son and then come back, and then after that is family time until, from 4:30 until whenever he goes to bed. It's like I don't do anything, no work related. I literally like shut my phone off from any notifications, and anything that is non-critical can wait. That,
Mhm.
I think, when you're starting to work, for you guys it's different now. You guys are students. I mean, you guys are always, work, 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 do,
yeah.
study,
Yeah.
study, game, code, learn, which is fine. That's how it should be for you guys. But as you transition to a work life, you also need to, have some gap in between where you can, you know just do it for yourself, or as a family, spend time, and not always 24 hours be in front of the computer. And even now, I guess, I mean, you ought to keep, like, for students who are in the FOSS club, who are doing this, you guys need to keep like a certain amount of time, uh, either for exercise or for your own stuff. Read a book, um, do exercise, go on a walk, or even if you're not into physical activity. I am not much into it. I do a little bit of yoga here and there, uh, but I do give the time to my family, where I have almost undivided attention to my son, and to cook, and to do chores where I clean the kitchen and all of those things, and or do planting outside. So find some activity apart from staring at a laptop, and doing gaming and programming, and doing online classes. Apart from that, keep some time, go play cricket, or volleyball, football, whatever it is. Do something outside. Don't just you it can wait. Your code
Yeah.
can wait, is basically what I'm trying to get to. And that was the hard part for me to do, and I did not do this until probably 2 3 years back. And I wish I did that in my engineering days, basically. So I wish I gave some more time for other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any tips to effectively manage this work life balance? Do you have anything that you follow?
For me, on my phone, I have this do not disturb mode. I mean, I use an iPhone. Again, sorry to all the amFOSS members for being, uh, ditching the open source community. Anyway, on my phone, you guys can do it same on your Google phone. My screen is empty. This is how my screen is, and I don't have any apps. And if I scroll one side over, this is all I have. That's it, right?
Mhm.
So um, there's zero distractions. I have turned off almost all notifications, and on the Apple platform, it you have something called as uh, send notification to summary, meaning that unless it is important, like you can choose what is important or not, it will send into the notification like as a summary later. So when you're ready for it, it'll pop up, and then at that time it'll say, okay, these are all the notifications from the past 4 hours for you to look at. So it's not
Oh,
distracting. Yeah, so
okay.
find whichever phone you're using. I guess the whole point is reduce distraction. That is one thing which I learned, which I love doing. And uh, when I'm working, I have my work mode on, where again all the distractions of WhatsApp is not there and all of those things. So even though here and there I check Twitter and all of those things, but I try as much as possible to follow this. And I try to, in during the night, my phone is completely in do not disturb, which is zero notifications, zero calls, nothing, unless it is from a person who is in my favorites or in my emergency contact. uh, the call doesn't come through. It just goes to, it makes it silent basically, even though the phone is in ringing mode.
Mhm.
And what I'm going to try soon is to leave my phone outside and not bring it to my bedroom, and have it outside. And then because I had this habit of waking up and then looking at my phone, hey,
Yeah,
what
all
did
of
I
Yeah,
miss?
us.
same,
you know
same here.
but you wake up and then you sit, and then you want to just sit for some time. My morning routine is I wake up, I sit for some time, and then I have a 1.5 liter of warm water which I keep in my thermos flask ready previous night, and I keep it next to my bed. I wake up, 1.5 liters of water. I take about 15 minutes and then sip and drink that whole bottle basically. And then I get up and then brush and all of those things, and then after that check my phone and all of those things. So I have that routine, and that is really important, I think, to have some kind of non-distracted night sleep. And I've slept really good. I sleep really well. If I don't get
Mhm.
enough sleep, that makes me. I sleep at least 7 hours every day minimum.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the other thing. Irrespective of what you're doing, sleep minimum of 7.5 hours, 8 hours. You have to
Mhm.
sleep. You have to give your body rest. Otherwise, you'll burn out. You don't want to burn out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's particularly important, I think, even for the online. We are on our
Yep.
computers and phones, I think, 24/7 at this point.
Yeah.
And
And I
so
think the
it's
blue light also affects our sleep cycle. Like I've
right.
personally noticed I find it much harder to sleep when I've like just been, on my phone.
Yeah, so that is the
Mhm.
other thing. Like uh, when it comes in, so in my phone, I think in Android also you have this where you remove the blue light when it
Yeah,
is in
reading
the
mode, I
The
nighttime.
think.
filter.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah,
night,
some filter is
something
there
like
which
that.
will remove all
Mhm.
the blue light. Yeah. I have that on always, irrespective of day or night.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so the other thing that I do is I'm very strict about this, which is, uh, I mean, I don't eat breakfast, as I said. I do lunch at 11 and then my dinner at 7 o'clock or something like that. And in between, I don't eat anything. Like during my workouts, there's no snacking, there's nothing. I just work, and then when I take break for lunch, I don't bring. So a lot of my colleagues, I've seen them do this. They bring their lunch to their work desk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do not like that. I don't know why. I feel like I'm disrespecting my work by bringing my snacks. Is different because snacks is like something you're trying to keep yourself awake, or you're drinking sipping coffee. I'm not talking about snacks. I'm talking about your food, like lunch itself or breakfast itself, bringing it to your desk or bringing it to your place of work. For me personally, it feels like I'm paying attention to I'm so get I lock my laptop and then go to my dining table, and eat there, finish my food, and then come back. In my office, I used to do that. I used to always get up, go down, and eat in the common area, and then I would finish and come up, irrespective of how hectic the work was, irrespective of whether I had a deadline. It wouldn't matter to me. I would always take that break. I would never bring my food to my work desk. So
That's a good habit to
that,
have, actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
that's
it
just me
advises.
personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's actually very relevant to all of us, like embracing a routine. Because I think like now that we have like so many like hectic deadlines and like quizzes and everything, like even when we are enjoying or like playing a game or something, in the back of our head it's always running, oh, this assignment is due. So you can't like fully
Oh,
enjoy
yeah.
yourself. And then
yeah,
when you're
Hmm.
working, you're thinking of, oh, I want to play this game. So you can't really commit to anything. So I think
yeah, yeah,
setting aside time, okay, this time I'm going to do this and only this,
yeah.
that definitely helps. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so too.
And also, do not disturb definitely comes in handy because anytime you hear a notification go off, like regardless of what you're doing, your mind goes there. Which,
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I've literally turned off almost all notifications except notifications from like individual text messages, like which I get really less often. And all of my like group WhatsApp and group text notifications, everything are in. I don't get that many, first of all, but they are anyway already muted in WhatsApp. All of these random groups that we have. Uh, but even then, I have muted many of, not muted, but in iPhone you have this delayed summary where it goes into the background and then it shows up later after you're when you're ready to look at it, basically. So when you're holding up your phone, it's like nothing is happening right now. It's like empty, like it's like you don't have any notification. But then when you actually scroll down and open the phone, that's when you'll see, okay, there's a notification. Yeah.
yeah,
And for people who have like smart watches and all that, if whoever has it, I use it only to track my activity, like my fitness levels.
yeah,
I do
Hmm.
not use it as a source of notification or distraction. The only thing I have on this is if I get a phone call. That's all. That's the only time it will notify me. And otherwise, like, there is zero notifications on my watch. Like, it doesn't buzz for anything. So that's one more thing. Like, otherwise you're like always like this, like, oh, somebody,
Yeah.
oh, you don't
yeah,
want that. I mean, whoever has this technology, that's something else.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful to have. Yeah, no notifications. Should keep that in mind.
That's a little scary considering that like all of our communication now is online. So like
Yeah,
Ye-
that's
honestly, I
also
get
there.
stressed if I haven't checked my phone. I'm like, has something happened?
Exactly.
Did I miss something? It kind of like FOMO or
that
like
is
fear of missing out.
that
Oh,
FOMO
yeah.
is the problem, I think. Like,
Yeah,
I had so much FOMO. I don't know, for some reason I just switched my mind. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, but I mean, of course I get distracted here and there sometimes. Uh, but most of the time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore it. It can wait. That is the attitude that I'm trying to switch to. And it's not like keep refreshing and check, oh, has somebody messaged? Has somebody done this?
Hmm.
Forget about it. When it happens, it will happen. When you have to get to it, you'll get to it. So that making that training your brain to do that is really hard. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
you know
yes.
it's a challenge, and I'm also struggling. I'm still in the process of
mhm,
getting there, but small baby steps will help, when you
yeah.
go. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. So, Avinash Bhaiya, is there anything that you wish that you would have known before you entered this technological field?
What do you mean by had I know? I wish I had known. What is an
Like,
example?
for example, if you like in when you're in the field, is there something that you would have wished that, oh, if I'd known this, then I could have executed this task better, or something like that? Like, I would have maybe done this particular job more efficiently, or something like that.
You know what? I don't think so, because I came with an open mind, I would say, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that I did not come with any preconceived notion that this is what I want to achieve. And it's mainly because it did not exist. Because right now you have, like, okay, past FOSS members, these are the statistics, they did these many contributions, you have these many people who did. And then when people are coming, you have the stress level for incoming students to be like, oh, he did that, she did this, I need to
Mm-hmm.
get there. Oh, I wish I had these before, I knew about these things before I joined the club. I did not have any of those exposures. So I guess since I did not have any exposure, I did not. I came with an open mind, and I did not, have any, you know, thing like, oh, this is what I need to achieve, or this is where I need to go to. Uh, so, frankly speaking, yeah, I did not. I can't think of anything, but I do wish I learned, about many other things. I wish I had more time to learn about, like entrepreneurship, or various other topics I wish I learned. You guys have lots more topics to explore, and a lot more
Yeah.
people who are willing to do research and share it with other FOSS members.
Yeah.
Right.
That flexibility we did not have, uh, because it was just, you know first of all, it was a small group of people working,
Mm-hmm.
and presenting that your work was not something that we was in the top priority. It should be, but it was not at our time. And that's really good for you guys. Like, you have people who are focused on certain tasks, and then they will present it to the larger group, and that creates awareness around everyone. And that is something. But I don't think I had anything as such that, had I known this, it would have been better. Yeah.
Cool.
Actually, one of the ways that we've implemented what you are saying, like finding out what other people were doing in like this online mode, is we have this status update system where at the end of every day, everyone will send like a status update, basically like what they did in that day. So like we get to see what everyone else is doing. And in a way, I'm not sure if this is the right term, but like there's a certain amount of peer pressure there. Like when we see what other people are doing, like we also find the need to like, oh, they're
Yeah,
doing
it
more than
it
us,
like
like they're doing
motivates
it
you
this way.
basically.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
motivates.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's yeah. It's almost like in companies they call it stand up. So it's almost like that. You just
Yeah.
post a
yes,
status update. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
makes
We'll
sense.
tend to that. I think over the time we kind of understood how to effectively present the kind
Yeah,
of work we've done that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it also increases the writing skills a bit, I think.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Writing is really
Mm,
important.
yeah.
So I follow this company called Basecamp, and
Hmm.
their whole theory is, engineers should be good writers. You should be able to
Right.
put your thoughts in thoughts across, not by talking, but by being able to write your whole requirement, or your what are you trying to, what feature are you trying to tell, or what are you trying to build. You should be able to articulate it in written sentences, which anyone can look at and be like, oh, okay, this is what he wants to do.
Hmm.
That writing and being articulate about something is really an important skill. And I think doing this daily status meeting will definitely help improve that. And it's good because it's in a closed group and everyone is learning together. So there's no judgment, like,
Yeah.
hey, you know
Right.
oh, okay, he had a typo here or something. There should not be any judgment. You should all learn together, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, now I think now that you've mentioned this importance of writing, um, do you mind elaborating like how where exactly is writing so crucial in particularly in the technological field? Because I think um I don't know, but I've seen like most people, most engineers who come into this field, there's so much focused on this technology part, but
Get the
communication and
overload.
writing skills are also equally crucial to their job, because conveying their ideas, or the way that you need to convey your ideas to the higher ups, that would be through your communication writing skills.
Right.
So would you mind elaborating how on
So
that importance? Yeah.
I really, I mean, when you guys get a chance, you should. I can share this link also. I can put in your show notes, which is Basecamp has this concept called Shape Up, and
Mhm.
that's a software development methodology that they came up with, which is really interesting. But one of the key factors that they have is they encourage people to write whatever they're trying to avoid meetings. Basically, that's the whole point. Why do you want to you know disturb 10 people's time in a meeting, when rather one person sits and writes down his thoughts, and then he or she can share it, and then the other 9 people, whenever they have time, they look at it. That's it. So you're not, if I'm in between something, I'm in a flow of thought, I'm writing my code or whatever I might be doing, I'm not interrupted by this meeting basically. So that's where I think it comes from. But in my particular case, think about writing skills apart from what you just said about being able to present to the higher ups. So there you have, like, you will have presentation slides and all of those things.
Mhm.
But as simple as release notes, when you're releasing new software, you want to write a release note. I changed a bug fix. I mean, that's not a release note or here's a feature. You should be able to beautifully say, or beautifully craft your release such that
Mhm.
it looks really nice and it's enticing for people to read it. One great example I can think of is one password. I am not sure if many of you are aware of it, but one password is a password manager, just like last password. So just go and check out their release notes. It is one of the best release notes I've ever seen. There are many like that. That's one of the places where I can think. The other place I can think of is when you find an issue or when you're reporting a bug, uh, you know, to be able to articulate it in a way that, say, you have like 100 people in your organization,
Mhm.
right? Not everyone is aware of that piece of line of code that you found out about, or a feature that you're trying to implement. You should be able to communicate written, not just verbally, but in written format. You should be able to communicate saying, this is what I'm intending to you know uh, implement, or this is the feature that I'm trying to propose, or whatever it might be. So I think it's really important, and I am pro return, to articulate and write down stuff basically. So it can be shabby. I mean, it doesn't have to. You don't start off being a great writer. I mean,
Mhm.
you do it on a regular basis, and then you learn. And don't worry about spelling mistakes. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about. Just start the process. That's all it takes is start the
Yeah.
process. That's it. You can worry about grammar as I mean, all of your students, you're in your early 20s. You have, this is the time to start. I mean, just
Mhm.
think about it. If you don't do it now, and then somebody asks you to write a requirements when you're in your company, and then you're scrambling, you're like, oh, is my grammar right, is my spelling correct? And at that time the tolerance level is much lower than when
Right.
it is now.
Mm.
That, just think about that. Like, right now the tolerance level is really high. You can make mistakes, you can afford to make mistakes. When you join the company, uh, however good the company is, you cannot, the level of mistakes that you can make is a little bit lower than what you can do now. So take the risk now, do it now.
Mhm.
Forget about what people think about you. Just write, even if it is grammatically wrong, doesn't matter, right? And improve from there, like go from there. And constantly keep writing, and you will improve. You will, as you read more books, as you read more software documentation, you will improve in writing for sure. And then whatever feature writing, document. That's another great way to improve your writing skill. So yeah, it's very important to have good communication skill, along with verbal presentation, also writing. It's really important, I think. And I would rather, like, even to date, I would rather uh, type something out and then post it in our company Slack channel than just have a call and then discuss about it. I would first post like a gist of what I want to talk about, and
Mhm.
then I will, we can have a call if needed, basically. And if you think about it, 90% of the time, you might not need a call. It can be easily resolved without a call. And why to waste everyone else's time when you're just wasting, you're just spending your time articulating, improving your skills, first of all, and also helping others, by not bringing them into calls. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, think about it from that perspective also. So that's something I would say. Do it now, risk is less, just do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like having
Mm.
this judgment-free environment is like a luxury. Like
Yeah.
our
Oh yeah,
seniors
yeah.
will give us like constructive criticism when needed, and like we can bounce ideas off of them and
Yeah.
see what they think without them
Yeah.
judging us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also as you were saying, like being proficient in writing, like I'm not sure if this course was there back in your time, but now we actually have a technical writing course as part of our curriculum. So like the focus of that is basically like simple and precise writing, like conveying the idea as like concisely as possible. So yeah.
I We had some course, but I don't remember if it was technical writing. I don't remember. Maybe we did. I'm pretty sure we had something. We did have some kind of communication course. I know that communication buildings course, but I don't know about technical writing. We might have had it. Yeah.
Um, is there, in fact, is there anything like you'd suggest for building your communication writing skills, specifically writing? Because I know I understand, like you mentioned, how important it is, but I particularly have a really hard time just starting to write because you have like this block. But when you like eventually get over it, it's easier. But do you have any ideas on how to like break
So
that?
think about it in this way. What are you working? What stuff are you working on right now?
So for example, in an additional part of our club is now we have like the social media club. So we write a lot to market the club as much as possible. So, for example, we have blogs for
Hmm.
the club. So we had like this series on particular topics like work from home, what you can do, stuff like that. Then we write a lot of emails to people to invite them for a talk. So that's also some
Hmm.
form of writing that we do.
Yeah, I mean,
But
your
yeah.
the emails that come out is really are really good, much better than what I would write when I was in the college for sure. So I mean, you guys are doing pretty good, I would say. But with respect to just where, I mean, how you can get started, I do not have a great answer for that. I think uh, I would just write blog. I mean, when I was in college, I would just write technical blog posts because
Mhm.
I knew what I was talking about because I mean, I was doing them on a regular basis. I would just write blog posts about technical stuff, and that was the amount of technical writing I would do. I mean, if you're working on a particular project, you can write requirement documents, and you can write it in a way that it is in English, meaning that it is like a, rather than writing it as a technical document, write it like a story of what you're trying to build, I guess. Or if you're implementing a
Oh,
feature, write it as a story instead of writing it as a, purely technical terms. Use technical terms, of course, but then make it a story or something like that. Or so that way you don't have that. So you write all the technical points, and then you build around it. So that way the mental block is much lesser, I think. And then same thing in documentation and all that. So uh, yeah, I don't have a great answer about where or how and all that. Yeah.
no, that's a nice approach. So just like you'd say, in a way, free writing, like just trying to
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
get
I think so.
all the
Yeah.
ideas.
So what I do, when I, for example, if I want to convey something, I
Mhm.
write down points, of what I want to convey about, and then I start building around that points. Like I start writing sentences around those points, and then I might redo my whole sentence because I might not like it. But
Mhm.
I start with points. Like I just start noting down if I'm talking about a particular topic like this podcast. So the way I started off is you sent me certain questions, right? You're like, okay, we
Yeah.
might be discussing about these points, and I copied that into my text editor, and then simple sublime text. I don't use anything fancy. I
Mhm.
don't worry about formatting. I don't worry about any of those. It has to look nice. Nothing. uh, we can worry about formatting it later. The first thing is to get your thoughts down. So then each question I would like just write like two or three bullet points, and then after I finish those bullet points, I would expand upon each of them, and I would form them into sentences, and then just
Yeah.
have them handy. So that's probably one. That's the way I approach to stuff. Even at work, that's exactly how I do. I'll write down all the technical jargons because I know those technical things that I want to convey, and then I would write
Mhm.
sentences around those technical stuff to make it sound better, basically. So that could be one way in which you can look at it.
Right. Okay. That's a nice. It's nice to. That's a nice perspective on
Yeah.
writing. Yeah. I think okay. This is just like a fun question to ask you. Before I had um before I knew that you were ready to give the podcast, we did a bit of research, like exactly what to ask on. So uh, I went like through your Twitter to kind of get an idea of what you were working for, what content you like. So in your followers list, I saw Barack Obama following you. Is there like a particular story behind it, or is just that
No,
a
there is no story. I
coincidence?
think it was just a coincidence. I think uh, I don't even remember when it happened, why it happened, how it happened,
Hmm.
but uh, it, I think it was during his initial presidential campaign, I think, or when
Hmm.
I you know when I was selected to go for the Sun Code for Freedom contest, and it was initial days of Twitter also,
Yeah.
and he had just come on board Twitter, and I think this is what I'm thinking is that whoever followed him, he would follow back. I think that's how it happened.
Okay.
I think.
Really?
I think.
Okay. Okay.
I think it was just fluke that it happened. And
Oh.
at a certain point, he was like, "Oh, that's not how it works, I guess." And his media team was like, "Okay, let's hold off on everything." And then, they did not unfollow people, I guess, because it
Hmm.
would not look nice. I think I don't know, uh, but yeah, I had totally forgotten about that. And then I recently found out, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." So I did some research, and I was like, it was just because I followed him. I think I might be wrong about this. So it was not that I was doing something extraordinary or anything like that. I wish. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting point. Like I think I remember like all of
Me
our
too.
club members were kind of fascinated, like, whoa, Barack Obama was following him.
Yeah. It
And it's interesting.
was fascinating to me too. I wish I get an answer to why someday. No
Yeah,
problem.
we were just talking about Barack Obama following Avinash Bhaiya.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is no story behind it. I mean, it's just, I think it was just fluke. It was initial days of Twitter. So
Oh,
it just happened somehow. I might have to do a
wow.
bit more research on why. But it's a cool achievement, I think.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Irrespective
definitely.
of how it happened, it's pretty cool.
It's definitely bragging rights to say
Exactly.
Barack Obama follows you on Twitter.
Yeah. Let the story be out there that I did something cool in my life, and then he was really impressed by me, and then that's why he followed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Let's
nice.
make that the rumor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Is
Yeah.
there any future advice that you can give to the students, maybe that are currently studying online, or anyone that you'd like to give?
Uh, my my advice, or my thoughts for the current students would be, or even future students would be, you know, as I said before, this is your time to explore. Put in your maximum effort. You have nothing to lose. If you fail, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you should fail. Take it as a compliment. You know, as Einstein said, you try, or Edison, I guess. He had to try multiple times before he got the actual light bulb to work. um, this is your chance to learn, basically. So make the maximum effort. Don't worry about failing. Don't worry about what people will think about you. Just do it, and learning is never going to stop. One more thing that I learned over the years is, you should be willing to unlearn something and relearn something else.
Oh yeah.
Be
Yeah.
it technology stack, be it anything. You should be willing to unlearn what you already learned, not have any preconceived notion, and then learn a new thing, or add on to your stack. That's also kind of important. Learn all the technologies that you have, at your disposal. Basics, whatever the basic questionnaires that you get from when joining the FOSS club, those are excellent way to get started. Even just attempting that itself will give you an a great advantage over anyone else who has not done it. So that itself will prepare you for something different. So do it, like learn. Don't be scared of new technology. Learn new tech. you know Explore. Just because it's a fancy word, I used to be like that. Just because it's a fancy word, I'm like, oh, it's not for me, it's too fancy. you know
Mhm.
it must be really hard. I still was like that until very recently. I still am sometimes. And don't be like that. And at the point of time when you are in your work life, uh, your scope to fail, as you progress in life, your scope to fail reduces, or the risks increase. uh,
Right.
so why not take the risk in the very beginning?
Yeah.
Get over with all the risks, and then your mind will automatically be trained to not fail, I think. And you will be willing to take more risks because you have already gone through the process of what it feels like taking the risk. So your mind will
Mm.
be already. I'll give you a simple example. In my case, I was working for almost 8 years in my previous job, and then I was not willing to take the risk to move to a new job, because I had this preconceived notion: what if I fail? What if something happens? And I took the risk to. I finally, out of support from my wife and from Vipin sir and all of them, I was like, okay, fine, it's time to move on. I need to make a switch, and I did it, even though my mind was constantly saying, hey, you're happy in your job, it's okay, just continue and all that. But uh, had I taken more risks before, maybe my mind would not be like this. Now if I, at some whenever in the future, if I want to move, I'm more confident because I already have gone through the process. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, it's okay, it's fine and all of those. So take risk now only, and then just do it, and then uh, it'll be okay. Anything is possible. So take your risks and all that. And how much ever uh, how much ever efforts you put, you know Amma, our chancellor, says, you know along with your efforts, there is another factor which is called grace. you know Even if you put 99% effort, if that 1% grace is not there, I guess you need that 1% also to you know get into the next level. I'll give you a simple example. I had a lot of grace in my life, immense amount of grace. Just think about this. Had my parents not found out about Amrita University through a paper advertisement, okay, had they not encouraged me to apply, uh, had I not taken the resolve to say that, okay, I'm willing to stay in a hostel outside my home state, apart from my family, and in a totally different state, I'm willing to take that risk and go. And
Mhm.
had I not gotten the last seat that was available for the IT batch in Amritapuri, based on Karnataka CET, had I not gotten that last seat, and had I not, met Vipin sir, uh, I would not have gotten any of these accolades that I have to my name right now. And if you notice a pattern here, in each and every step, I have given my ultimate. I mean, I have given my effort. I've put in my effort, but there's also a
Yeah.
factor of grace, which is for my parents to find that article in the newspaper, my parents to uh, encourage me to apply, and for me to get that last seat. Like,
Mm.
it was amazing when I went for the counseling session to get a seat, or to get a seat in Amrita University. And as soon as I said, okay, I talked to my parents, like, and like, there's a big board. I don't know how it is now, but anyway, there used to be a big board where they would say mechanical engineer, computer science, ECE, IT and all of those, and then they would say how many seats are available, how many are full, what is the status and all that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the moment I said, hey, I want to do Amritapuri IT, that was the last seat in computer science for me, or for that batch. And I was like, okay, that is something. So things like that, I mean, along with the effort, the amount of grace that you have, just let it flow. Don't stop it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Put your effort, and leave the rest. It'll Things will happen, things will fall in place, and they happen for a reason. There is no doubt in that.
Right.
Whatever happens will happen for a reason, and do not question why it is happening. Do not be demotivated by why that is happening. There is a reason, there's an ultimate goal, which is why it's happening. So put your effort. Good.
That's such a wonderful way to look at it. Like any of your failures or something, that's always a learning process.
Exactly.
That maybe that's why it's happened to you instead of
Yeah.
getting demotivated. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful way to see
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even about keeping that learning mindset is very important, like especially in this tech industry, like there's always this new software coming up, there's always
Mm,
some new update. So like we kind of always have to be on our toes and like ready to learn new things. Like it's so easy to get like attached to like a particular language or particular software.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that like as time progresses, like new software is going to come up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So I
And
mean, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, and even what you were mentioning about being intimidated by like all these like big fancy technical words, like actually now as part of our induction process, there's a lot of freshers coming in and they're also seeming to go through those same hurdles that we went through last year of like, oh, what do these things mean? And like being intimidated by like everyone else seems to be so technically advanced. So like it's easy to get scared by that. So I think keeping in mind that everyone is on their own learning path and everyone has their own learning speed is important.
Yeah, I mean, just think about in your case also, where you are learning about ML AI. Had you thought of it as, oh, this is fancy, I will not know any of it. I mean, you not have gone into it, and then once you're into it, you're like, oh, okay, I love it. Like, you would not have known until you went into it. So yeah, you have to be willing to learn, and then just do it, basically.
So should we wrap it up? I
I was
think
just
we've
gonna,
taken a lot of your time.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, sure. We can. I guess it's almost 2 hours. I guess, right? one
Yeah.
hour
yep,
50 minutes. Yeah.
Okay,
It
so
was a good podcast. I loved it. This was my first podcast, so
oh
I've never done a podcast before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. You guys are amazing, and um, I I wish each and every member of the amFOSS club all the best, and keep trying. Do not give up. Just keep trying always, and no matter what, uh, even if you're not met Vipin sir in person, keep him as a north star. He will be there to guide you every single moment of your time. Whatever problem you have, he will be there to support you, and he can guide you really well. um, and take your I mean, you have plentiful resources. There are very I have not known many universities where alumni are so involved with the activities that happen in the college, like amFOSS. I don't know about other stuff in Amritapuri or in Amrita University, but at least for amFOSS, the alumni is so actively involved. I have not seen any other place where this much involvement is there from an alumni. And that is something, that's a resource that you guys should cherish and then make use of. It's amazing uh, how the whole support system you guys have. It's just truly amazing. So make use of it, and if you have any thoughts, question, you want to reach out, I'm sure along with me, I'll be happy to help. And you can reach out to me at any time, and along with me there are many people who will be willing to help. I know it for sure, I know it for a fact. And if any of you want, it's an open invitation. If any of you want to talk to me, or you know not for advice but even just talk, just we can make that happen. And I don't mind sparing, it's not even sparing, I don't mind doing it once a week, or once in a couple of weeks, just talk. So just use what you guys have at your disposal, basically.
Yeah, we're really
Okay.
grateful for having such a big and like diverse alumni network.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Bhaiya, for taking the time out of your day to be a guest on our podcast. It was really interesting and eye-opening, actually, to hear about your experiences in the club and even with open source contribution, and also how the skills that you acquired as part of the club helped in your career. And I'm sure I speak for all of our listeners when I say it was a pleasure having you on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine too, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And uh, as I said, wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, Priya.
Thank you.